That deep, unshakable feeling you've been carrying, the one that tells you not to walk away from a certain person or situation, is a sign worth exploring. You've likely done everything right, at least by the world's standards. You tried to close the book, you reasoned with your heart, and you attempted to simply move on with your life. Yet a relentless, quiet pull remains, a constant internal whisper insisting, "Hold on, the true ending hasn't been written yet." This feeling often brings with it a confusing silence from above. You've petitioned for clarity, begged for a sign, and asked for the peace that comes with knowing the right direction, but all you've received is a profound, frustrating stillness. It's in this heavy quiet that the doubt begins to creep in. You start questioning yourself, wondering if perhaps your prayers are simply not being heard. Or worse, if you're stubbornly clinging to an attachment that should have been severed long ago. The thought arises, did God forget about my situation? Am I just obsessed? But what if this pervasive silence isn't a form of divine rejection? What if, instead, it is a crucial, necessary part of the process, a dedicated time of divine preparation? Sometimes God's most profound answers aren't shouted from the mountaintops. They are subtly hidden within the silence itself. This isn't a command to stop, but a gentle instruction to stand still, to watch and to wait. Understand that when God is working, especially when He is moving two individual lives toward a shared, greater purpose, He doesn't operate on a rushed timeline. He meticulously refines. The distance, the confusion, and the painful waiting are not random acts of punishment designed to hurt you. They are essential tools used for alignment. That persistent emotional tug you feel, that strange inability to find final rest, is not a personal weakness or a simple obsession born of loneliness. It's a divine echo from heaven, a soft, encouraging whisper saying, "Just a little longer. My work here isn't finished yet." Every time you gather the strength to finally turn your back, only to feel an inexplicable spiritual gravity pull you right back, your spirit is confirming a powerful truth. Your soul recognizes an unfinished divine blueprint, a specific pattern for your life that has not yet reached its completion point. This is the simple reason why your heart cannot seem to settle, and why every earnest attempt to forget this connection ultimately ends with a compelling reminder. You are not losing your mind, nor are you indefinitely trapped in emotional turmoil. You are actively being trained to master the vital discernment between a temporary, purely human attachment and a permanent, divine assignment. When God Himself is still actively involved in a situation, He doesn't allow a feeling of true, lasting peace to coexist with separation. He often allows a profound restlessness, not to torment you unnecessarily, but to diligently protect what is inherently sacred. This restlessness serves as an internal compass guiding you back to the truth. What heaven has purposed, what has been meticulously woven into a divine tapestry, absolutely cannot be broken apart by mere human confusion, geographical distance, or the simple passing of time. Therefore, before you surrender completely, before you allow the current silence to convince you that your story is over, remember this powerful insight. Sometimes, God intentionally conceals His resounding yes inside what feels overwhelmingly like a definitive no. This situation, which currently presents itself as a firmly closed door, might actually be the primary doorway leading you straight to your ultimate destiny. The core message of this moment, this idea of stillness and sacred waiting, has already resonated deeply within you. Consider it your personal confirmation. This word, this instruction is meant specifically for you right now. Take a deep breath and truly absorb this. You are currently standing at a profound junction of faith and patience. In our modern world, the common advice is to instantly discard people or situations the moment they cease providing us with comfort or ease. We are constantly taught a very simple, flawed logic. If it causes pain, it must be inherently wrong. If it feels overwhelmingly heavy, you must immediately drop it. However, the spiritual kingdom of God operates by entirely different, counterintuitive rules. Heaven often chooses to refine and purify us precisely through the very challenges and tensions that the secular world instinctively runs away from. God consistently hides his most crucial and transformative lessons in the friction mind, in the enduring tension and in the seemingly unbearable waiting period. This is because the intense pressure you are currently feeling is not meant to be a punishment. It is a profound act of duty preparation. The person in question, the one who seems to constantly test your reserves of patience, who inadvertently triggers your deepest insecurities, and who relentlessly challenges the strength of your faith, is likely not placed in your life with the sole intent of destroying you. Their true divine purpose may well be to fundamentally develop you. God sometimes strategically positions a person on your life path, not to guarantee your immediate happiness or ease, but to actively work to make you whole and holy. This divine strategy is designed to strip away layers of pride you didn't even realize you possessed, to significantly stretch the boundaries of your compassion, and to finally teach you how to truly love when it is profoundly inconvenient, replicating the unwavering way God himself loves you. When you are operating as a chosen one, someone called to a higher purpose, your relationships inherently carry a significant, observable spiritual weight. You are not connected to people in the same fleeting, superficial way that others are. There is an undeniable divine quality woven deep into the fabric of this particular connection. This is the central reason why the thought of permanently walking away feels intensely unnatural, even when your logical mind and all your friends are screaming that it's the only rational choice. In these unique, purposeful connections, God is not merely testing the fragility of your emotions. He is fundamentally testing your obedience and your willingness to surrender to his greater plan. Before he grants a blessing upon any bond, he first meticulously examines the vessel, your heart and spirit. Before he entrusts you to carry a significant promise, he must ensure that your heart is strong enough to bear the inherent responsibility. You might observe others around you quickly replacing partners, hastily restarting new relationships, and effortlessly forgetting their past connections. Yet for you, there is an insistent internal whisper from God. Hold your ground. This particular relationship, this connection, truly matters, even if the full, intricate picture remains frustratingly hidden from your current view. There is an undeniably sacred element to the exact circumstances of how this person entered your life. Their arrival was not a mere random coincidence. It was a powerful, deliberate convergence. Heaven knew with absolute certainty that your two paths would intersect at the precise moment when your individual spirits were fully ready to trigger deep transformation in one another. This is precisely why the experience is not simple, smooth, or easy. Easy circumstances rarely, if ever, forge a profound, eternal purpose. Therefore, every single instance where you attempt to definitively move on, only to feel that invisible spiritual resistance pulling you back, is not a sign of emotional instability. It is an act of spiritual gravity. You are actively being pulled back toward a connection that still carries vital, unfinished divine work. And when God still has a specific task to accomplish through a connection, he will not allow you to find true, lasting peace in departure. You can successfully distract yourself for a time. You can bury your mind in a continuous torrent of external noise and activity, but the pervasive, quiet whisper will always remain. The instruction is simple. Stay. Stay, not because it feels instantly comfortable or easy, but because the assignment is fundamentally divine. It is important to remember that God rarely uses fleeting comfort as the primary confirmation of his specific will. Instead, he uses a deep, resonant conviction, and when that inner conviction is powerful enough, it has the capacity to shatter human logic, to fully silence the frantic reasoning of your mind, and to firmly anchor your heart to the truth. This is why chosen individuals often find themselves living in a spiritual paradox, feeling perpetually torn between the instinct to surrender completely and the need for persistent action, a battle between cold, hard reason and divine revelation. But here is the core, powerful truth you must hold on to. You are not stuck. You are, in fact, being meticulously stationed, positioned exactly in the place where heaven requires you to learn the most profound lessons on how to love precisely as he does. Therefore, if every time your lips form the words, I'm finally done. An undeniable voice deep within your soul firmly whispers, not yet. You must listen with every fiber of your being. That relentless voice is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of perfect alignment. That inner knowing is the unmistakable sound of your spirit recognizing unfinished business in the higher, divine realm. And perhaps, just perhaps, the fundamental reason God has not yet fully released you from the magnetic pull of this connection is because the intended narrative is not designed to conclude in final, crushing heartbreak. Its ultimate purpose is a profound and lasting healing. This lingering feeling is a call to remain attentive, to see what God is truly constructing amidst this difficult period of waiting. You may have sincerely convinced yourself that the act of completely letting go would finally unlock the peace you desperately crave. You told yourself that if you could only stop caring, if you could just manage to fully erase every memory, the pain would finally lose its crushing power. And for a fleeting moment, this approach seemed to work. The external noise of the world faded. The intense ache in your chest softened considerably. You felt as though you could breathe freely again. But then, as it always does in the deep quiet of an ordinary night, something incredibly small, a specific thought, a random dream, a forgotten song, awakened that familiar, insistent stirring deep within your core. It was a profound, quiet emptiness, the kind that whispers the unsettling words. You let go too soon, and in that sudden, gut-wrenching moment, you realized a crucial difference. What you had mistaken for genuine high closure was merely a pause. Because when God is still actively engaged in writing a specific story, absolutely no amount of human reasoning, self-help philosophy, or psychological logic can successfully silence the divine impulse that heaven initially set into motion. There is a vast, significant difference between the temporary peace that stems from an immediate escape and the eternal peace that comes from unwavering, steadfast obedience. The former peace feels pleasantly good for a short period of time, but the latter is the only thing that can truly anchor your soul forever. When you try to definitively walk away from something that God is still actively shaping and refining, your spirit immediately senses the profound dissonance. It begins to emit a persistent echo, which functions not as a punishment, but as a gentle divine alarm, subtly and persistently pulling you back to the sacred unfinished place you attempted to abandon. This profound echo is not a sign of emotional frailty. It is a clear sign of wise spiritual recognition. It is your deeply embedded soul remembering the distinct scent of its original destiny. And every single time you hear that echo, God is sending a reminder. What He Himself starts, He is eternally committed to finishing. But this completion is conditional. It can only happen if you absolutely refuse to quit in the difficult middle key of the miracle. You may genuinely believe you have let go of the situation entirely, but the spiritual truth is that heaven has not. Heaven is still deliberately holding that specific connection in its capable hands, diligently weaving invisible threads between your two stories. Even as you frantically try to cut them apart, that is precisely why, even after you attempt to physically and emotionally move on, you continue to feel an intense invisible pull, a persistent gravity existing between two souls that are still orbiting the same central, divine purpose. It is not a clinical obsession you are experiencing. It is an unfinished creation. Because real, authentic love, the kind that is fundamentally born from divine design and intention, does not simply disintegrate with the presence of distance or the frustration of silence. It patiently and powerfully waits within the mystery of the waiting until the divinely unappointed time finally arrives. But you must be aware of the inherent danger. The enemy is also acutely aware of this divine process. This is precisely why he will rush in to attempt to fill your silence with the paralyzing illusion of false peace. He will whisper insidious lies. See, you finally feel better now. That must definitively mean it's over. If you are not incredibly careful, you will make the critical mistake of confusing temporary relief for eternal release. Relief is essentially an emotional anesthesia. It succeeds only in numbing the pain for a short time, Release, however, is a profound spiritual permission. It is the only thing that can set you truly free forever. And until God grants that specific spiritual permission, every subsequent attempt you make to move forward will feel like an exhausting struggle of walking against a powerful wind. Real peace is not defined by the convenient absence of any struggle or challenge. It is instead fundamentally defined by the constant, unwavering presence of purpose. It is the moment when the storm around you may not have stopped, but you have fundamentally ceased fearing the sound of the thunder. It is when the tears you shed no longer taste overwhelmingly of despair, but instead carry the profound flavor of true, disted faith. This transformation occurs because you have finally, fully understood this. Even your most agonizing period of waiting is fundamentally sacred. And sometimes, the most challenging test of all is simply to stay still when every impulse in your heart demands you to run, and to choose to not believe when your every logical thought screams a final verdict. It's all over. Therefore, if you currently find yourself in that deeply quiet place, where everything seems to have gone silent once more, do not instantly assume that God has abandoned you. Perhaps He is simply allowing you to hear the powerful echo of what still matters. Most unfinished divine assignments always whisper. They linger powerfully, and they continuously call you back to the specific connection that your soul still instinctively recognizes as holy and divine. And when God firmly says, "Not yet," your act of obedience is not a desperate grasp for control. It is an ultimate act of us trusting that His sovereign timing will never, ever allow your pain to have been experienced in vain. Hold on, because the intense storm you are standing in right now is not here with the intent to destroy the thing you deeply love. It is strategically placed to purify it. And when the thunder finally fades and the inevitable silence returns, you will experience a powerful, undeniable realization. The very thing you tried so desperately to release and bury was never actually gone. It was in the process of being profoundly reborn. Stay anchored to this truth, because the next revelation is the key to understanding why your long-suffering and delay was never denial from God. Sometimes, the core reason for the delay isn't actually about the other person in question at all. It is fundamentally about you. When God says not yet, it is only on extremely rare occasions a flat-out rejection. It is almost always a form of divine redirection. It is heaven essentially communicating this crucial message. You are still currently under construction. The elevated version of yourself that I am meticulously building right now cannot yet successfully carry the weight of the immense blessing I have prepared. Before God connects two separate destinies into one, He must first purify the two individual hearts involved. He isolates you not to inflict punishment, but to provide an essential time of preparation. He systematically strips away every distraction, gently dismantles every illusion you cling to, and deliberately silences the external noise that continually prevents you from hearing His true, genuine voice. That pervasive season of loneliness you are experiencing right now is not a sign of abandonment. It is a period of vital refinement. Because destiny connections fundamentally require clean hands and fully healed hearts. God will never allow two wounded, incomplete souls to meet on a spiritual battlefield, when they were specifically meant to walk together on sacred, blessed ground. Perhaps the other person is simply not fully ready yet. Perhaps their heart still requires a necessary breaking to finally cultivate humility. Their inherent pride may still need significant pruning to create the vital space for God's grace to enter. Or perhaps, just perhaps, the necessary work is still required in the Ikadu way. Maybe your own spirit still needs further training in the virtues of patience, in unconditional trust, and in the difficult, continuous act of letting go of control. This is important. God does not bless unions that are founded on rushing or human impatience. He overwhelmingly blesses the connections that show deep reverence for His divine process. Divine timing is never a delay. It is always a purposeful design, though. It is God actively weaving both of your individual stories into a perfectly synchronized, divine rhythm. Even when it frustratingly feels like absolutely nothing is moving or happening, The powerful truth is this: while you are crying over what feels permanently stuck, heaven is actively synchronizing timelines that are completely invisible to your eyes. When you finally execute the full and total surrender, not to your transient emotions but to His unwavering will, that is when everything truly begins to shift. The spiritual burden that once weighed you down so heavily begins to noticeably lift. The constant fear that kept you locked in doubt and anxiety starts to quiet itself. Suddenly, a profound peace begins to beautifully bloom in the very place where emotional chaos once fiercely ruled. This is not a random coincidence. This is undeniable confirmation. Because when God's mighty hand is still firmly on your life story, your heart will not be permitted to feel anxious or panicked forever. That consuming anxiety fades away the very moment you willingly align yourself with the slow, deliberate pace of heaven. That inexplicable peace is His gentle, assuring whisper saying, "Keep believing. I am still actively working." Understand this deep truth: God never wastes your waiting. Every apparent delay is, in reality, a sacred, invaluable classroom. He is diligently teaching you a profound discernment, how to recognize His perfect timing, not just the fleeting urgency of your own feelings. He is instructing you on how to truly love without a desire for possession, how to pray without debilitating panic, and how to believe with absolute certainty, even when you can't physically see the evidence. And in the midst of this refining process, He is fundamentally making you into the kind of whole, mature person who will not accidentally destroy the immense blessing He is about to give you. Because what is coming next requires profound maturity, not merely simple desire, but, spiritual depth. There is a powerful mystery inherent in the way God operates. The more you willingly let go of all personal control and outcome chasing, the faster He unexpectedly moves on your behalf. When you intentionally stop chasing a specific result and instead start relentlessly chasing His presence, He begins the grand alignment of everything you thought was irreversibly lost. And perhaps that is the simple, honest reason He hasn't allowed all the pieces to fall into place quite yet. Because He is actively protecting you from receiving too early what was meant to profoundly last forever. So if it feels undeniably like absolutely nothing is happening on the surface, look closer with spiritual eyes. Heaven is incredibly busy in the profound silence. God is not ignoring your desperate pleas. He is meticulously orchestrating. He is not stalling the process. He is profoundly stabilizing the foundation. And when the time is perfectly right, He will not merely whisper. He will dramatically reveal. The very same hand that gently kept you waiting will suddenly and powerfully open the door. And in that moment, you will realize why every "not yet" was genuinely His loving way of saying, "I was preparing you for something immeasurably more than you ever dared to pray for." When God teaches you the vital lesson of not giving up, He is absolutely not asking you to chase desperately, to beg for affection, or to break your spirit trying to constantly prove your worth to another person. He is not extending a call to unhealthy obsession. He is extending a profound call to inner reflection. This is because divine love is never centered on possession or control. It is entirely about mirroring heaven. When He instructs you to love another person, He is inviting you to love in the exact way He does, with enduring patience, quiet assurance, and unwavering faithfulness, without any expectation of return, without a need for control, and without paralyzing fear. This is not the weak, transactional kind of love that the world constantly preaches. This is the covenant love one that holds firm even when your own heart is trembling. It is the love that remains pure and untainted, even when it is completely unseen or unacknowledged. It is the kind of love that profoundly endures, not because it was born out of intense emotion, but because it was eternally birthed in eternity. God's pure love never attempts to manipulate. It never rushes the process, and it never demands immediate proof or validation. It doesn't actively chase or attempt to force a timeline. It moves quietly, like an unseen breath, yet it fundamentally shifts and alters everything it truly touches. When you choose to love like heaven loves, your heart transforms into a sanctuary of peace, not an emotional battlefield of anxiety. You cease asking the desperate question, When will they finally come back to me? And you begin praying a purer prayer. God, make them whole. You no longer desperately cling to a specific outcome for the relationship. You cling instead to an obedience. Because the strength of true love is not measured by how long you can physically hold on. It is profoundly revealed by how deeply and completely you can trust God while you are patiently waiting. And this is the great paradox of divine love. It masterfully teaches you to stay without feeling the need to control, to believe Sasin without feeling the urge to push, and to let go of the outcome without ever giving up on the person. This specific kind of profound love has the power to transform what you are first. Before it ever transforms your external situation, it accelerates the maturity of your patience, meticulously purifies your core intentions, and awakens something sacred and powerful deep inside you. The rare ability to love without any requirement to be recognized or seen. Because heaven's love is never the loudest. It is the most lasting. It survives absence. It transcends profound misunderstanding. It carries a quiet, unshakable strength that not even the passing of time can successfully erase. If the connection is genuinely from God, mere distance will not destroy it. Silence will not weaken its hold. Delay will not kill the intention. Because what is fundamentally born in heaven always, in the end, finds its inevitable way back to its original source. Maybe it won't happen through the exact same path you envisioned. Maybe it won't involve the same faces you expected. But it will always definitively come back through purpose. And this is the critical point where many chosen ones miss the profound truth. They mistakenly believe that the ultimate goal is a reunion, when in reality, the true goal is profound reflection. To reflect the pure, selfless love of God so clearly that anyone who happens to cross your path ultimately sees him reflected brightly through your actions. So yes, continue to love them, continue to pray for their well-being, but ensure that your love does not unintentionally become your own personal prison. Allow it to transform into your ministry more instead. Every conscious act of surrender, every quiet prayer whispered for their peace, every single tear shed in secret is never, ever wasted. Heaven meticulously records every single heartbeat of your chosen obedience, every measurable ounce of your unwavering faith. Because in the vast spiritual realm, pure love is never truly lost. It is always powerfully sown. And when that love is sown with complete purity, it always ultimately resurrects in glory. Perhaps this current season of waiting isn't about the other person needing to change at all. Perhaps it is fundamentally about you becoming in the person God intends. Because the more your love perfectly mirrors the love of heaven, the more powerfully heaven will move on your specific behalf. That is the sacred secret. The very moment you commit to loving as God loves, without limits, without fear, without condition, is the moment that miracles cease to be perpetually delayed. And perhaps that is precisely why He hasn't permitted your heart to find a full release yet. Not because He desires for you to feel stuck and endlessly confused, but because He is still actively teaching you the master class on how to love like He does. If you are still here reading this to the very end, it is because your spirit knows with absolute certainty that this final message was written specifically for you. You did not simply stumble upon this by mere chance. Heaven led you here. Every word, every emphasized pause, every single breath of this message has been strategically guiding you toward this powerful moment of realization. God is unequivocally saying, do not give up yet. Not because He wants you to suffer or endure further pain, but because He is still actively shaping and perfecting what only looks permanently unfinished to your human eyes. The prolonged silence was not a harsh rejection. The frustrating delay was never a punishment. It was and is ultimate protection. Heaven has been diligently working in powerful dimensions you cannot yet perceive, healing deep wounds, profoundly restoring broken pieces and meticulously aligning everything. And perhaps, just perhaps, this story that you were absolutely certain was ending is only currently less pausing, while God fully prepares both of your hearts to finally converge in His perfect rhythm. So instead of saying, I'm definitively done with this, I want you to say this declaration out loud with conviction. God, if this is your will, give me the supernatural strength to stay faithful. Because when you resolutely choose to remain exactly where He has intentionally planted you, even when it hurts deeply, even when the path is completely unclear, heaven records it as an act of profound surrender. Every single prayer, every tear that you shed, every agonizing moment you chose faith over paralyzing fear becomes a powerful, potent seed sown in eternity. And very soon you will finally see it. The very pain that caused you to question absolutely everything will dramatically become the undeniable proof to you that your specific love and your enduring faith came directly from God Himself. Do not, for a single moment, allow the enemy to convince you that silence is equivalent to divine absence. Silence is sacred. It is the precise place where God chooses to speak the loudest, but only to those who possess the sheer audacity to still believe in the face of all evidence. You have absolutely no idea what is about to dramatically unfold in your life. The core of this story is not dead. It is currently being profoundly reborn. The heartbreaking ending you have always feared will transform into the powerful testimony that will ultimately set countless others free from their own doubt. Because those who are capable of enduring these challenging, divine tests are the very ones who are ultimately trusted with the greatest divine rewards. So rise up, chosen one. Wipe those tears from your eyes. Straighten your faith like a strong pillar. This current period is absolutely not your final breaking point. This is your powerful becoming point. The specific kind of love that perfectly mirrors the love of heaven never ever ends in defeat. It ends in triumphant revelation. The fierce, unwavering faith you are demonstrating right now is so potent that it shakes the very gates of hell, because you refuse to relinquish what heaven has permanently declared sacred. Now, I ask you to do one final powerful thing. Do it not for me, but as a commitment to your own spirit and soul. Go to the comment section below and write this simple yet powerful declaration. If it's from God, I won't give up. Write it down as a powerful public declaration. Write it as an undeniable act of war against all your nagging doubt. Because every single time you declare that truth, heaven powerfully moves. Angels take immediate notice. The spiritual atmosphere surrounding you instantly shifts. You are definitively breaking your agreement with all fear and stepping fully into the unwavering frequency of faith. This is not the end of your story. This is the turning point. You are currently standing on sacred ground, the precious moment right before everything begins to finally make complete, beautiful sense. Hold your sacred position. The one who promised you is eternally faithful. Your powerful endurance is your personal prophecy, and your unwavering faith is about to make the seemingly invisible visible.